Welcome to another Initiative Modeler. For the next build, we go back to the Star Wars universe. Well, hey guys, and welcome back. As we all know, the Star Wars universe is filled with a variety of ships of unique designs, and many of those we've been able to see as model kits throughout the years. Well, last year, Bandai finally released a kit of a ship that I've always wanted a model of, and that is of the B-Wing Starfighter. Now, I was lucky enough to be at the San Diego Comic-Con when they released this limited edition, and what makes this kit a little bit different than the one in wide release is that it contains some parts that allow us to make a slightly different version of the ship. So let's go ahead and take a look inside the box before we start. Okay, well, it's been explained to me that the main difference between this kit and the other one that's out there are some details along the vertical wing and some details in the cockpit. This model includes some additional instructions because these additional ones here are pertaining to the parts that are different for this kit. So we can see it starts off with the cockpit, in which this kit contains a human pilot instead of a Sulistan. I think that's how you pronounce it. We've got a few variations here with the vertical wing. And then, of course, this includes a lighting kit, so the instructions here are going to detail how to put that together and install them for the engines. The other thing that's different and that is missing is that round insignia, which you can see here. These decals do not include that insignia. And as with most Bandai kits, you'll get one decal sheet that are basically stickers, and then you have others that are conventional decals. Let me take a second to show you an alternative decal sheet I was able to purchase off of eBay. And this sheet came to my attention because I had posted a comment about the B-Wing Starfighter limited edition kit on Starship Modeler on Facebook, and I had made mention that the round insignia was missing that would go on the wings. And I was a little disappointed because I actually really like that insignia. Well, the seller of this sheet messaged me and told me that he, in fact, had an alternative decal sheet available on eBay. And sure enough, you can buy it on eBay for $5 and it's free shipping. If you're interested in this, just contact him at info@otherworldmodels.com and you can get a hold of this sheet as well. So because it has this additional insignia and some other things we can add, I'm going to go ahead and use this decal sheet instead. So let's go ahead and pull some of these other parts out here. We've got these smaller trees that include some parts for the engines. And then, of course, they always include these laser bolts if you want to install those. This is the stand for the model. And then we've got this tree here. And as usual, the detailing is very good. You can see the panel lines are nice and deep, so this should lend itself well to a wash. And we have this tree here, which includes more parts of the middle section. And this is the lighting kit. Okay. And then we have this tree here, which shows you how the model is molded, of course, in colored plastic. So in case you didn't want to do any painting, you really don't have to do any if you don't want. Of course, I'm going to be painting all of this so we can apply the proper weathering and detailing. We've got some parts for the interior of the cockpit here. We've got our canopy cover, and then we have this light blue section here. So yeah, as usual, this is nicely detailed. So we're going to end up with a good representation of the ship. Alright, so let's go ahead and get started then, as the instructions tell us to, with the cockpit. Alright, so this is how our cockpit is looking. After I primed it with Stynylres's gray, I used Vallejo's light gray mixed with black, and that's what I used to paint the cockpit. And then I applied some dry brushing using some of Vallejo's silver to weather the panels, and then I also applied some different paints to the buttons and levers. The bottom section here was painted with Vallejo's gunmetal, and these two end pieces with Vallejo's brass. And you can see the pilot is all set to go as well. He has a little bit different uniform there than an X-Wing pilot would. They happen to have this gray vest with a white chest plate. And of course the helmet is a little different. So what's next now is to prep the outer pieces of the cockpit, and by that I mean I'm going to go ahead and start weathering them a little bit to give them a chipped, worn appearance using the salt and hairspray technique. And then after I do that, we'll end up feeding all the fiber optics through so we can get that set. For the white panels, or the lighter colored panels of the ship, I'm going to be using a mixture of a 50-50 mix of Testors white and Testors light gray. So as I mentioned, my original intention was to light the cockpit with fiber optics, and as you can see here, I used a pin vise to make small holes to accommodate them. Unfortunately, there's just not enough room. So as an alternative, I decided to try to light the cockpit with a single light source using a pico-sized SMD light. And I pieced that together, test lit it, but as you can see, it just didn't look right and there was a lot of light leakage towards the bottom. So I decided to abandon the idea and I settled with just lighting the engines. So I'm going to do some of the weathering as I go along here, and for this particular build I'm going to use the salt and hairspray technique to get that worn, chipped appearance to the surface. So this is a matter of just using hairspray, you've seen me do this before, then applying some salt, and then apply your base color. Once that is dried, you then dissolve the salt with water. What I like about this technique is it results in chipped areas that are finer and smaller, and I think are in scale with this 1/72 scale model. You can also use a wet toothpick to create surface scratches. Now this is the piece that goes the opposite side of the cockpit, and I should have put this piece together before weathering it because as you can see there are some seams here. So I masked off the seams, applied some putty, sanded it, and here we now have the finished piece. So as you can see, I also added the blue stripes here. These are not the decals. I felt I could do a better job weathering with paint, and I think they turned out pretty well. To create this color, I used a mixture of flat white and intermediate blue. Both are Testors colors in a 70 to 30% mix. And this mix matches, not exactly, but close, to the blue-gray of the molded plastic, which I'm also going to paint in this color. And moving on now, I applied the hairspray and salt technique to the rest of these pieces. Now one thing you can do to make the chipped areas appear finer and smaller is to grind the salt up to a finer powder. And I think this is helpful particularly with this model because it is a 1/72 scale ship and we want these weathered detailed areas to appear in scale with that. I do realize that there are chipping fluids that you can buy. You can buy fluids that will create both a finer and larger chipped appearance, but I've always liked the control you get with this particular technique, and so that's why I continue to use it. And here is the end result. Alright, let's talk about lighting now. The kit comes with a single yellow LED that's mounted into this enclosure. This houses the two LR41 batteries that power the light. And by the way, the Duracell equivalent is this. After mounting the batteries, you screw on this plastic plate and then you activate the light by flipping this switch on and off. Now this is mounted into this section here, which accommodates these plastic rods, and so let's go ahead and do this now. This will slide right into here like so, and you can see by turning on and off the light you can transmits the light through the rods and to the exhaust ports. This then now slips over here like so, and we've got 4 exhaust ports. You can see the interior is painted chrome. That interior piece, by the way, is separate, so you can easily paint those, and I painted it chrome of course to enhance the lighting here. And these simply just slide right in. And turning on the light, you can see it is a really nice effect. And this just slides very easily now into the section, so you have access to that switch by just removing this and activating it. So at first I was having some trouble with this, so I want to make note here that it is very important that you get enough pressure from this plate onto those batteries so they make the proper connection. And I was having trouble doing that, so it made this quite unreliable, and so I was unsure I was going to stick with this, but what I decided to do is just to take a piece of this, is just a harder paper stock, and place it in between the plate and the batteries, and once I screw that down it applies enough pressure to make the proper contact. So if you're having that problem, that's one way to alleviate that issue. At first I was going to not use this as well because I thought I could get something that was brighter. I could use like a Mega SMD chip, but as you look inside here, there's really just not enough room there. There's not a lot of room there to accommodate a battery and a switch. And you know, this is all set up so that it allows the model to be self-standing. It's not hooked to any wires, and by doing that it allows the model to retain its ability to rotate. And going back to the cockpit, now you can see why it would be difficult to wire fiber optics through here and still have that ability to rotate. So I think I'm going to go ahead and stick with this. I think the lighting looks pretty nice, and so let's go ahead and move on and construct the rest of the ship. So moving right along here, you can see I have one wing already attached, and as I did so, I realized I had forgotten to paint this blue panel. So there are decals for this panel, but I am painting these details on, so I use my blue-gray mix along with the hairspray technique, and it turned out really well. And you can see the other side I'm putting into place here. These panels, or at least these wings, just slide right into place here, and there's a clear rod that slides down into this opening here, and it's engineered so that you've got this little groove that this slides along this post that you see on the inside, and that's what allows the wing to be movable. Right, well, I think I'm going to go ahead and stop construction here and apply a gloss coating to the surface now, because we do have decals to apply, and I want to use this Starship streaking wash here from MiG Ammo, which needs a coated surface to work effectively. So the decals I will be applying prior to weathering are just the Rising Sun insignias, and these again are from the decal sheet that I purchased off of eBay. This decal sheet takes place of the one that is found in the model that is widely released, not the limited edition. Again, these are insignias that are missing in the limited edition kit, and I am using this Solvacet solution to soften up the decals so that they can conform to the contour of the model surface. As you can see here, the decals sink right into those panel lines. To weather the decals and create this chipping effect, I'm just simply cutting a slice into them with an X-Acto knife and just gently rubbing away with a soft Q-tip. And you can see it does a pretty effective job at making the decal or the insignia look worn. Alright, so model is again coated with this gloss coat, and I have now moved on to applying some of the dirt and grime using our washes, using this Starship wash as well as this Starship streaking, both from MiG Ammo, and working also with the odorless thinner to give us the look that we're after. And you can see I'm using it to darken some of the panel lines there, and just building up some grime along the nooks and crannies. Now, one of the tools that I found helpful with applying these solutions is to get a hold of these generic cotton swabs. One thing about these swabs is they're not as full as the name brand swabs, so you have a tighter head. And I found, particularly with some of the detailing, if you just want to leave a small area of, or small amount of the solution behind, all you have to do is just take it and roll it along the edges, and you'll find it leaves just the amount that you want left over. Alright, so here we now have the completed 172 B-Wing fighter by Bandai. This kit measures 9 inches from top to bottom, and when the wings are extended, the wingspan is about 6 inches. As with most Bandai kits, the construction is pretty straightforward, requiring little to no adhesives. And as you saw at the beginning of the video, the ship comes molded in colored plastic, so if you wanted to just build this without any painting, you could do so. But that is the best part for me, is painting and detailing, and this kit is no exception. So I began by first creating the chipping effect on all of the ship's panels before assembly, and I felt this was the easiest thing to do because of the ship's unique design and foldable wings. I think it would be a challenge to reach some of those tighter corners. The effect was simply done, as you saw, with the hairspray and salt technique, and as I mentioned, I feel this works real well for these smaller 1/72 scale ships. The darker undertone that you see coming through is just a gray Stynylrez primer. So the colors used here were pretty simple. It's not a very complicated model to paint. For the lighter colored areas, I used a 50-50 combination of Tester's flat white and light gray. The blue tones were painted with a 70-30, that's approximate, mix of Tester's white and intermediate blue. And for the cockpit, guns, and metal parts, I used a 50-50 mix of Vallejo's light gray and black, and those areas were also dry brushed with Vallejo's silver. And on the turrets, I also dry brush Vallejo's red leather to simulate rust. Further weathering was done with MiG Ammo's Starship Wash, and I really like using this product. It was highly effective here with darkening the panel lines and for adding the simulation of dirt and grime. And what I love about this product is you can manipulate and move the pigments around with their odorless thinner. Using both brushes and Q-tips help to achieve the look that you see here. And the laser blast and scorching was done with black from a Tamiya weathering kit. So I am very thankful also for the aftermarket decal sheet I was able to purchase for this kit. This came to my attention because I had made a remark on a Facebook page on how the limited edition was missing the Rising Sun decals. And the guy who makes these sheets messaged me and told me about the decal sheets he had available for not only this kit, by the way, he does sell others for like the Falcon and the Y-Wing as well. So very happy that I got a hold of them. I think you'd be pleased with them as well. They're easy to work with and they settled nicely, especially when using the Solvaset solutions. They're not very expensive. This one only ran $5 and that included shipping, and you can contact Danon at info@otherworldmodels.com if you're interested. Well, as you know, I ended up using the lighting kit that came with the model. It's a pretty simple little kit that, by the way, is also available on Amazon in other colors. So if you search Bandai Spirits LED, you'll definitely find them, and you'll find them in different colors. I was told that the B-Wing engines, by the way, in the movie were pink. And I did look up a clip from the movie, and sure enough, they do look pink. But I have a feeling that the red LED kit would be too red. So ideally it would be great if they made one with a clear LED, because then you could tint it with Tamiya's clear red, and you'll end up with that pink color that would better match what you saw on screen. So I'm going to go ahead and leave this with the yellow. I know it's not screen accurate, but I think it would look better than the red. So as you can see, the stand that comes with the model kit definitely accommodates the ship. It allows you to display the model in all its configurations as well as at different angles. And what I did with the base was I painted it with Tamiya's light gunmetal, and I did so from the inside. And once everything is dry, you can see it leaves that lined pattern that you see there just by the way the base is designed. Okay, well that wraps up another Bandai build. I hope you enjoyed following along as much as I enjoyed putting this together. As always, if you have any questions, feel free to contact me here on my YouTube channel or at interstellarmodeler@gmail.com. Until next time, take care you guys, and thanks again for watching.